Mm, 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 mm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. See, good afternoon, y'all. I'm checking the screen, seeing how we showing up. July 30th. July 30th, 2025. Midday class. We rocking from 12. Yes, sir. Uh-oh. I don't like how that's showing up. I gotta change some stuff real quick. You all give me 1 sec. So I want everybody to have accessibility to the link to register for the virtual session. Yes, sir. Here we go. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Midday class, bridging the gap. A parent's guide to enhancing their child's academic success and behavior. Part one. Part one. I will commit to doing a midday class on this topic every Wednesday from now until from now to the end of the month. I can commit to that. Today is the 30th, and then to the end. That's awesome. That's of course. I'm looking at the phone real quick just to get the date that I need. It's August 31st, so it will go from now until August 27th. I can do that. I will do that. I'm gonna put it in my calendar too. Yeah. So this information I'm going to share, it's not from it's none of the content that I'm gonna share as we do this midday class every Wednesday from 12 to 1. None of the content that I'm going to share is going to be in the Bridging the Gap, a parent's guide to enhancing their child's academic success and behavior, August 4th, August 11th, and August 18th. We're going to rock every Monday from 7 p.m. Central Time to 8:30. None of the content from these sessions, the mid class Wednesday, will be there. Click the link, register for the event. Join us as we empower ourselves to better support our children in their academic success. I'm sorry, educational success. And upon registration, you will have the opportunity to select the date that best suits your schedule. Again, August 4th, August 11th, August 18th, from 7 p.m. CST to 8:30 CST. All right, thank you, Steve. I appreciate your service. Platform will be Zoom. Deadline to register, we're giving you all the way up to the day of 5 p.m. And that's a little bit pressing because we would still have to notify you all via text message or email, but you will be notified via text message. And I'm jotting this down. Notifications will occur via text or email or both. A lot of work, but we're willing to put in the work to make sure that our kids, we want to position them in the best space of success. So make sure as you watch this, give your thoughts, give your comments, give your questions, give your feedback. I do want to interact with you. So I'm watching. I've got one screen that I'm sharing through, then I got another screen that I'm watching. I don't think there's anything else for me to share with you. Let's get started. So you're watching this and I'm asking you to interact. Just type in the comment section. Let's get started. Our program potential, the goal of the program is to teach our kids to think before they do. And let me share this with you as we go into this. I got this out of a psychology book years ago, probably over a decade. Somebody gifted me the psychology book. I can't tell you why. Maybe we was in a conversation. Maybe they heard my heart. Maybe God showed them something like, we need to add value to that brother. But when I read this, it changed my life. So type the word life real quick. Life. Life. When something or somebody comes in and changes your life, your perspective has to change first. So your perspective, how you see yourself, how you see the world around you changes. And most importantly, how you see yourself first changes. Then you live from a changed mindset. And this really struck me. It illuminated my thinking. And it made me reflect. This is inborn abilities and perceptual lessons. So this is connected to what we're going to discuss today in our midday class, Bridging the Gap. One way to study the origin of perceptual abilities, basically saying perception, is to see what happens when usual perceptual experience of early life fail to occur. To do so, researchers, they studied animals whose sensory and perceptual systems are similar to our own, humans, such as, let me see, what animal did they use? Such as, I think it might have been cats or something. But they researched animals whose sensory and perceptual systems are similar to ours. Don't click off. I know it's boring right now. It's important because it's going to help your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your students. What they find is that without certain experiences during critical periods of development, perception develops abnormally. Without certain experiences in critical periods of development, perception develops abnormally. What that translates into is that if our kids are void of key developmental experiences in critical periods, their perception will develop abnormally and they will function. And if your perception is abnormal, then your behavior will be abnormal. Abnormal meaning whatever setting that they find themselves in. Each setting has similar yet different rules and expectations. It all depends on the setting and all depends on the people that is in the setting. If our kids don't have those type experiences for me, their perception will develop abnormally and their behavior will be abnormal. And they will not, I repeat, realize their full potential. You realize your full potential when you have real eyes. That's my thought of the day. We realize our full potential through real eyes, meaning our authentic perception of who we are. Because who we are And how we see ourselves determines how we see others and the world around us. I'm giving all that to highlight potential, teaching kids to think before they do. We have done over 50 interactive education and training settings or training sessions in various settings, whether it was a middle school, high school, community center. And I'm saying that because I'm highlighting the program and I'm validating that this is just not something that we do. It's who we are. Potential focuses on SBL for SEL, scenario-based learning for social and emotional learning. I need you to type experience in the comment section. This is weighty. This is weighty because you cannot teach academics experientially because it's a skill set. It's a technical skill set. Whether the subject is English, whether the subject is math, whether the subject is social studies, whatever subject it is, the subject matter itself is based on a skill set. It could be cognitive as far as the comprehension, but then it's a technical skill connected to when our kids are in academic settings. Yeah, right? So this is important. I want you to type the word experience in the comment section. Please, please type the word experience. Yeah, please type the word experience. Yeah. Shout out to Dennis and Steve for liking. I hope y'all still there. This stuff is for our kids, but it's very applicable to us. So let me give you this. So keep this in mind throughout this midday class. As I already stated, I'm gonna go back to the statement. Without certain experiences during critical periods of development, perceptions develop abnormally. Without certain experiences during critical periods of development, perception develops abnormally. At potential, SBL for SEL, scenario-based learning for social and emotional learning, we teach the experience so the student can experience the teaching. At potential, we teach the experience so the student can experience the teaching. We teach what we live and we live what we teach. What that means is that we're teaching off lived out experiences. So the student can experience the teaching. We teach what we live what we teach. That's heavy because it's not just information. It's not just terms. It's not just methodology. It's not just best practices. This is coming from trial and error and success. Tested and proven. I am imparting to you. We are imparting to our kids in our community. And because they feel the weight of that impartation, because it's a lived out experience, it's going to hold them accountable in comparison to giving them some information. Information alone without experience will lead to a person being prideful and puffed up. And when that occurs, you can't tell your kids anything when they think that they know it all. But they just know what they know. And sometimes it's not even via experience. Sometimes it is. But sometimes intelligent kids have a inability at times to receive wisdom because they're coming about and they're absorbed with knowledge. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Somebody type yes, sir in the comment section because I can't see y'all right now. I need to go into these other pieces so you can understand the importance of what we do and you can understand why we do what we do. We still bridging the gap, a parent's guide to enhancing their child's academic success and behavior. So in this segment, I would highlight this. We have to, I don't want to say get our kids to understand, but we first have to understand that people learn. Please type learn for me. You can type learn in the comment section. This is what I tell students. This is a heavy statement. This is something that you can use with your kids, but this is going to give us a better understanding of comprehension so we won't be frustrated all the time, right? Because sometimes we get frustrated because we know that we taught our kids something and they doing something otherwise. We're talking about behavior, and now we're upset with them. Check it out. This is one of the things that I tell students. That when you come into the classroom and you get taught in an academic setting, you have not learned anything. You have not learned anything. You've been exposed to some information, and you may have some comprehension and understanding of that information. But do you understand and know how it applies in your daily living outside of the four walls of the building or the institution? Now, I always clarify because I never want to minimize my educators, my academic people, because I'm one of those people. And I understand to a certain degree the sacrifice and the training that they have to go through and the everyday trials and terrains of middle schools and high schools. But I always tell kids, when you say learning, you got to remember what context that you're talking about. When you learn in a school, you're learning academic stuff in the context of a school. And I tell them what happens is that you believe in your mind that what you learn is applicable to outside the four walls in the building, and that's how you get in trouble. Because when somebody comes and shares something with you that comes from a place of wisdom, trial and error, your knowledge base that you acquire in the setting of academics will reject that wisdom that that person has for you. Real talk. So what am I saying? That how we can bridge the gap to increase our child's academics and behavior is to help them understand that when you say learning, we're talking about learning in the context of academics, but in the context of life, you learn through the application of what was shared with you, and there's trial and error associated with that. That's how you know that you have learned in the context of life. Because of what happens, and as I challenge my students, I'll challenge you to do some research as well. A person, and I want to look at the celebrities. I want to look at the actors. I want to look at the entertainers. I want to look at the politicians. I want to look at people who are magnified in the eyes of society. You will find, if you do your research, and I challenge you to do your research, you will find that in most cases, it's not a professional decision that the person made that took them off the map, so to speak. It was a personal decision in their lives that was made that affected their professionalism. It's rough because with people as humans, we invest a lot of our time and a lot of our lives into building something from a professional standpoint. And it takes one incident for it to be taken away. But that one incident is not an isolated incident. It was a series and a pattern of behavior that led to that person getting exposed. So the cover was taken off. And now we're like, oh man, yeah, we all experience it. Some of us, the demise of it is greater than others because we in the eyes of the public. And that's just a real conversation. All right, let's check the chat and see if anybody or comment section to see if anybody said anything. So that's segment one. That's segment one that I wanted to share. Let me see if there's anything else I want to share with you all before we go into. Oh yeah, I do. And that brings me to saying this. And I want you to type this too if you can. This is a quote by Dr. George Fraser. Dr. George Fraser is quoted as saying this: "Your EQ will ultimately be more important than your IQ." Your EQ will be ultimately more important than your IQ. Your emotional intelligence will ultimately be proven more important than your academic intelligence all day, every day. All day, every day. I will say that they're equally important, but as you can see in society, when people make decisions, it's from their soul, mind, will, and emotions. But we make an emotional decision and it costs us jobs, relationships, impulsivity. Impulsivity normally comes from when we have a limited life experience. And remember this statement and the thought that I shared with you in the beginning of this midday class, bridging the gap. I said to you that when we miss, and our kids and us in general, when we miss critical periods of development, we voided those experiences during a critical period of development, our perceptions develop abnormally. And if our perception develop abnormally, our behavior is going to flow from our perceptions. But, so if I don't have the experience that helped me develop that emotional intelligence, that when the experiences that knock on my door come and approach me, because I won't be able to recognize it subconsciously, it's going to turn immediately into a threat. And when the threat is perceived, you're either going to have fight, flight, or freeze. You're going to have people, we're going to be manifesting subconsciously defense mechanisms. It can look like a wall set up. It can look like a person externalizing in an unhealthy way. It could look like a overabundance of sarcasm because it's really a deflector. So lastly, before I go into these few thoughts that I would like to share with you all, I'm trying to see. Oh, okay. Coach, you probably watching this. I'm gonna answer your question in a second. Let me see. Potential two. It is not a lecture. Is an experience. It's not a lecture. It's an experience. When we work with the elementary, with the middle schools, with the high school, with the young adults, we are teaching. We're not lecturing. We're sharing from an experience. And when you have an experience, there are many intricate details that are associated with an experience that a person cannot touch upon unless they've had that experience or they've connected with people who have had that experience and they pick their brain. And this is one reason why it's difficult. It's difficult when you think about teaching because I can be just sharing information without life experience, and you could consider that as you learning, which could be very, misleading when you get out in the world and you experiencing the different failures and have yet to know how to rebound because you lack the experience. All right, let's see. We're gonna go into some statements. Remember, we still working on midday class, bridging the gap, parents' guide to enhancing their child's academic success and behavior. This is part one. And then you will see that you can register. Registration is free. We're going, I got, yeah, I'm gonna tell you how I got I got four thoughts to share and some elaboration. The first part of our conversation, it helps us bridge the gap to enhance our child's academic success, primarily because when our children believe that they know something, they heard like a fun fact, they get happy. But if we don't talk with them and let them know that, yeah, I want to encourage you that you share that fun fact, that's amazing. But there has to be a balance with them to help them understand that there's a deeper depth of learning that you have to grasp. because without humility, I would say this: kids getting a lot of facts, it can add to or build their self-esteem, which can become a can become a part of their identity. But then when you try to redirect them from a behavior standpoint, a defense mechanism comes up and it stops them from receiving. And then also from the academic aspect, because me speaking from an aspect of me being a gifted student, I want you to type gifted in the comment section. Gifted student in terms of academically, because every child, every student, every person is gifted with something. But I'm speaking specifically from an academic standpoint. With me being gifted, I didn't have to work hard to get straight A's. Why? Because I was doing the work at home too. So I was being exposed to similar content, whether it was English, whether it was reading, whether it was math, whether it was social studies, whatever the topic was, because that muscle was being worked at home. And that muscle, and when the muscle worked enough in terms of practice, it becomes subconscious in terms of autopilot. But when I go into the classroom, I'm blowing through the work. And subconsciously that can build up a tremendous amount of pride. Whereas I believe that I can't quote unquote learn anymore and then I, stop. And so that's important to understand. Let me see where we at, y'all. Yep, I'm going to read some of these statements that my brother, Mr. Steve, made. He said, as a youth, sometimes my perception caused me to shy away from an experience that I could have gained a lot from. Yep. He said, we teach what we live and we live what we teach all day, every day, my brother. Thank you for chiming in, man. I appreciate you. All right, here we go. I got two statements for us as parents and adults and teachers too. But my target is parents. And then I got two statements for the young people. Yes. All right, I'm gonna give a second before I speak. Thank y'all for sharing, for being there. This is important. It may not be an hour. It may not be an hour. I'm saying 30 minutes right now. Make sure you register. Make sure you register. Bridging the Gap, a parent's guide to enhancing their child's academic success and behavior. Those virtual conversations, interactive education and training sessions are taking place August the 4th, August the 11th, August 18th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time. Platform is Zoom. Deadline to register is 5 o'clock, August 4th, August 11th, and August 18th. Once you go and click on the link in the comment section or in the description section, it's going to take you to a Google form. You fill out your information, and then it's going to give you an option of what class or what session you would like to be involved in based on your availability. All right, I want you to type parents real fast. I shared some of these thoughts already on the book, but I want to give elaboration on the thoughts because I'm speaking from experience. Let's see what we got. We got a strong, okay, we can do this in 20 minutes. Yeah, but I really want to just make the connection as to why this is important and how the connector is, how can this help my child improve their academics, success, and behavior. So the first part can, but this is really going to help us. Because as parents, what happens is that I'm getting these statements ready, y'all. So I'm looking down. What happens is that we we hold our children accountable to improving, but we don't hold ourselves accountable to improve. Without us holding ourselves accountable for improving, how in the world can we hold them accountable? In reality, we really cannot. Real talk. If we go back to old school sayings, "Do as I say, not as I do," that's called hypocrisy. If I'm looking for my child to improve, From a behavior standpoint, or from an academic standpoint, I got to self-assess myself, or maybe they can self-assess me. That's a little tricky, right? Or my wife's self-assessment. Or if you have a husband, wives not self-assess or assess, where is the gap that needs to be filled? Here we go. First thought. Number one, when we talking about bridging the gap and giving a parent's guide to enhancing your child's academic success and behavior, number one, first statement, when we impose our stories upon our children, their stories are not heard. When we impose our stories upon our children, we cannot hear their stories. We all had a past life. We all had a past life. The question is this: why is it when our kids come and bring us something that can be problematic or challenging, a challenging experience, or they do something, we go right into back in my day, or man, when I was your age, we didn't. For example, if you went to Jolly Essential type Stillman in the comment section. And if you went to West, type Tigers in the comment section as well. But I want to target the Stillman because I was a Stillman. I went to Jolly Essential from 1994 to 1998. We lived on the east side of Joliet. The first space or apartment that we lived on that I can remember was on Eastern Avenue. We eventually moved to Richard Street, which was a little bit closer to Joliet Central. But when we stayed on Eastern, we had something called snowstorms, avalanches. There was no snow day. There was no snow days. We walked to school in blizzards. That gave us a sense of tenacity, endurance, the ability to persevere, or what my parents would say, stick-to-itiveness. Those attributes was cultivated in us because we were in an environment that enhanced those attributes that was in us. Kids now, when there's a lot of snow or ice on the streets, it's a virtual learning day. That's 1998 or in the 90s in comparison to 2025. What happens with us is that when they get these virtual days, we had the tendency to impose our experience on them. And what that does is that can build a behavior pattern of anytime there's a challenge or there's a difference of perspective, we'll impose that on them as though we're better than them. Truthfully speaking, there are some attributes that the 90s babies have that our kids in 2025 don't have. It's in them, but it's going to take a little bit more work because 2025 and 1998 is entirely two different ages and periods of time. There have been many things that have changed between 1998 and 2025. When we impose our stories on our children, we don't hear their stories. And if we don't hear their stories and they don't believe or feel that they have an outlet, they're going to find an outlet. They're going to find an outlet. And at times, the outlet that they find, it leads them astray. What I'm trying to convey is us sharing our history is good because the kids need to understand the history because that's a part of formulating who you are. What I am trying to clarify is that we don't necessarily need to impose that on them as though we're better. We're just different. We had to have these different attributes cultivated in us because it was the environment that we found ourselves in. But just be leery, be careful, and be deliberate when you are sharing because it's important for them to understand the history, but it's also important for us to be able to hear their stories and attempt to be passionate or compassionate and empathetic to where they are. Real talk. That's the first statement. All right, number two. And so in summary, well, I'll give you a summary after I give you this other statement. Then I'm gonna address the kids, the young people, and I want you to send this to them, or just write the thought down and whatever strikes you, and then share it with them and tell them that you engaged in the conversation. We got 16 minutes. Statement number two. Let me check the comment section. Let's see if Brother Steve or anybody else shared anything. Okay. Yeah, West. Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, yeah, y'all did go to West. Yeah, yeah. I don't be trying to. I don't be trying to. It's too much division between Joliet West and Joliet Central. We are a family. I tell students all the time, I am a steel tiger. Real talk. All right, here we go. Other statements. When we impose our upbringing, I'm sorry. When we impose our upbringing based expectations on our children, we get upset when they fail to meet our standards. When we impose our upbringing based expectations on our kids, when they don't meet those expectations, we get upset. Realtalk.com. We get upset. When I was younger, we did this. Back in the day, we did this. Why is it that you're not doing that? Why? Somebody type why. WHY. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. It's going to be a relief to you. It's going to be some work that you're going to have to do, but it's going to be a relief to you. I'm going to say this again. This is the reason why. Without certain experiences during critical periods of development, perception develops abnormal. Without without certain experiences during critical periods of development, perception develops abnormally. That's why they're not doing it. We have to give them experiences that they didn't have. Experiences is not just words. Experience is words plus action. Word plus action equates to an experience, tangibly. Words create experiences, but but it's not necessarily tangible. When I say tangible, we are putting our hands to the plow. You and I, we work together. Hey, you have a hard time you have a hard time cleaning your room. Why? Let's get it. I'm gonna help you clean it. And the expectation is gonna be this now. It's really the experience that our children are void of is based on their life. It's based on their lifespan. It's based on a series of experiences that summarize their lifespan. And maybe cleaning the room is not a effective example. But this is what I would say to you. Look at the deficit. Look what's not taking place with your child, whether they are elementary, middle school, or high school. And then you have to ask yourself, what experiences are they void of? Because if they were void of experiences during a critical period of development and that perception developed abnormally, then you're going to see abnormal behavior. And we get upset, we invest more time being upset at behavior that we believe is abnormal than really identifying the root of the issue. And the root of the issue in this context is because they may be void of the experience. I may be able to tell them to do it, but they normally people need an example to really ascertain, comprehend what's taking place. so they can do it themselves. Just a thought. All right, here we go. And so that helps us manage the academics and the behavior, because then we can ask, if you're struggling academically, my question is, what do you need? Do you need a tutor? Do I need to sit down and work with you? Because if you don't have that experience, then you're not going to be able to do the work. But it's a lot of other factors that we can talk about as far as the academic aspect. And one piece that I would give you is that your child has to feel as though he or she is safe in order to thrive academically if you're working with them at home or at school or with a tutor. But I'm speaking at home because us as parents, we are the first teachers, whether it be from a behavior standpoint, culturally, or academically. We are and should be the first teachers. So we can't rely on our teachers and our academic system to do the work that we're supposed to do. If we get lazy, then it puts more pressure on them, which is totally wrong. All right, let's see. All right, now here we go. This is for the young people. We got 10 minutes left. Let me do another check. Appreciate everybody responding to the session. It's available. It's gonna help. It's gonna help you, trust me. Because I'm speaking from like three dimensions. I'm speaking from the aspect of me being a child and excelling academically in middle school, and then going into being a teenager and not excelling academically in high school. And then I'm speaking to you from a mentor coach standpoint, guy, dad, uncle. Then I'm also speaking to you, from a parent aspect too. Then the other dimension is I'm speaking to you as a teacher. So it's just a whole holistic conversation. So a lot of angles is being touched on. All right, I'm checking. I had to learn. Steve says I had to learn to meet my children where they are, listen and relate. Yep, because I shout out one of my directors from Job Corps, Gloria Watley, before we go into these statements for the youth. So I want to make sure that we wrap up at 1 or a little bit after 1. We got 9 minutes. When I first began to work at Job Corps, because I worked there from 2011 to 2016, and I volunteered for 5 months before I came on as a career preparation instructor. Sometime in the outset or infancy of my career there, she pulled me to the side and she said, "Mr. Cage, you're going to have to start recognizing or acknowledging students when they have their uniform on properly. When their shirt tucked in, you're gonna have to acknowledge them." And my thought was, why? That's what we're supposed to do. I'm not going to acknowledge you or them based on what they're supposed to do on the culture of this center. Then the thought came to me, where did they come from? What environment have they come from and transitioned into? So if they came from an environment where uniforms wasn't the norm, and you see them struggling with their uniform, they haven't adapted to that cultural norm, you got a positive reinforcement when they do it to give them an incentive to continue to do it until it becomes a part of their norm and their culture. That's a bar. That's a bar. If you look into provoke improvement in terms of behavior, we have to understand why that behavior is not present. Once we understand why the behavior is not present, then we put in place our strategy of positive reinforcement, the behavior that we want to see. And eventually, everybody will be a product of their environment, naturally speaking. It'll take some time, but that's where patience come in. And I share with you all on Facebook, and the thought got remixed, so let me share this with you too. Oh, we are forever enrolled in the class of patience. We are forever enrolled. We will never graduate from that class. We will never complete that class. Never. All right, let me give you these last two statements, my people. These are for the young people, but they're applicable for us. I don't know which one I want to give first. All right, I'm gonna say this. Young people, Parents, realize this. Some friends from elementary, middle, and high school may not remain your friends once you become an adult. Some of the friends that our kids have in elementary, middle school, high school may not be their friends when they become an adult. Why? Because your meaning of friends changes. It should change as you age, develop, and evolve as a person. Prayerfully, it will change. Prayerfully, it will change. I remember Dr. Miles Monroe saying, and he was speaking from a biblical context, understanding the Bible and the different expressions there. He said something that was so profound that the meaning of a word is not in the word, it's in the person. And I use that because the meaning of friend is going to be based on our child's experiences and their interpretation of these experiences. Once again, when the child is void of development and critical or void of experiences in critical period of development, the perception will develop abnormally and the behavior is going to operate from the perception and develop abnormally. And I'm speaking from my life because there was some perception that I had and still to this day that were abnormal. But because I lacked the experience from another person, or I didn't have hands-on experience with that, there was no lesson that was learned. So some friends from elementary, middle school, and high school may not remain your friends once you become an adult. Parents, you can continue to ask your elementary kids, did you make any friends today? That's cute. But we can't keep them at that same definition of friend. Because if we have the same definition of friend in elementary that we have in high school, it's going to be problematic. It's going to be problematic because that word to our young people means so much. It's almost synonymous with family. And this takes me into the last thought. Sometimes the word for our young people, and when I say young people, I'm saying teenagers and young adults, maybe up to the age of 24, just to give a start and a finish. The word friend is synonymous with family when your family is highly dysfunctional. And if my family is if my family is highly dysfunctional, that means that when I need them, they're not able to be there for me in various areas of life, whether we're talking about mentally, physically, socially, and financially. If they're not there, my support system turns into my friends. And I label these individuals as friends, even though they could be making ill-advised, unadvised decisions, which could land them into serious trouble. The statement that I want to give us with and leave us with is, it's for the young people, but it's also for us, that when your friends take the place of your family, it can empower them to lead you astray. When your friends take the place of your family, it can empower them to lead you astray. Because with that friend word being synonymous with family, there's a lot of power and influence associated with that. There's a lot of power. I remember when I was in junior high, and there was a young lady that took a liking to me, but I really didn't like her. I really didn't like her. It wasn't nothing that I could facade or manufacture. But one of my quote unquote friends was driving on me. Man, you need to talk with her, man. You scared, you a lame, you this, you that. And I was able to withstand the barrage of peer pressure. But it didn't make me feel good because if you my friend, then I value your opinion. We may not agree 100% on many things, but when you that age and you in development of who you are, and you don't necessarily know who you are, your value system is unstable. When a person comes and makes a statement or shares an opinion, it can shake you because the ground, which is the foundation of who you are, has not been built yet. And when your friends take the place of your family, it can power them to lead you astray. High school setting, young people and parents. I'm ditching because they ditching. Those my guys, those my friends. But it's taking me away from the primary reason as to why I'm here, and that's to get my education. But because they have more influence, because I have labeled them as friends, and maybe they're not. Maybe the word friend has not evolved and developed. Maybe I still think because Steve and I shared a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when we were 5, that was my friend. And I'll share this with you. When the age of a friend starts early, and you go from elementary, middle, and high school, there's loyalty there. There's a tremendous amount of loyalty there because you had these series of experiences. But that doesn't necessarily mean for us that that's our friends. It could have been a strong associate. This is why the development of who we are, our kids, is extremely important. Extremely important. Because even though you can remain my friend, you can be my friend if we met at 5 and you shared a piece of your peanut butter and jelly sandwich with me and we journeyed into high school. However, when the doors close on this space of our academic career, I have to know where my life is going because you're not going to pay my bills. And that is something that's a real conversation that we have to have with our young people. But I will share this as it's 1 o'clock on the dot as we close. We have to truly listen to understand when your young person, male or female, says to you that today is different than when you grew up, your response should be absolutely. Tell me how. Teach me. Tell me how. I'm willing to listen. And then as that healthy therapeutic conversation manifests, you will have room to impart history to them. But if we are consistently imposing our history upon them, it will not give them room. It will not give them room to be heard. And if they can't be heard by our parents or by our parents, they're going to be heard by somebody. And that somebody may not be that favorite teacher or that person that we trust. It may not be a dean or a counselor or a principal. It may be somebody that can do tremendous damage to them mentally, socially, and emotionally, and spiritually, financially as well. Yep. So I think the key word, the word that I would share with us as a summary is being receptive. That's probably the key core component of enhancing the child's academic success and behavior is being receptive and being observational. I would say being receptive, being observational, and maybe being intentional. Yeah. No, take that away. Summarizing our session for today. Keywords that help us bridge the gap and with the ability to, what is it, enhancing our child's academic success and behavior. And this is in no particular order. Receptive, listen to understand, not necessarily listen to respond. Observational and empathetic. Observation, just observing, not with a conscious of what you're not doing. Because anytime we can identify what's not being done, it can result in a building conversation if we're willing to take the time. empathetic. What is it when you were that age? What was it like for you? What type of challenges and obstacles did you face? And what similarities do you share with your young person, whether it be a teen or preteen? What similarities do you all have? And what differences do you have? Let's ask questions and find out. This was part one. Make sure that I would ask you a favor to make sure you share this whole conversation, this whole experience. I believe there were some nuggets there. Once again, we share from our experience. We share what we've been trained and taught on, definitely in that environment. But most importantly, we share from our experience, whether it was trial or errors in different phases of life and in different positions that I've been in as a student, as a parent, as a teacher, as a mentor, coach. It's a lot that was shared. I want you all to have an awesome, awesome day. I see a couple shares already take place. Shout out to those who have shared. Make sure if you have a parent, make sure if you are a parent, you got a preteen or teen, make sure you register for those 3 interactive virtual sessions taking place August the 4th, August the 11th, and August the 18th on the platform of Zoom from 7 to 8:30 Central Times. Have an awesome day. Be great at what you do, but aim to be greater at what you are.